You were created to create.
And now that you're here, the only way to unlock and unfold that is you find ways to continue to create.
When you stop learning, you stop growing. Your biggest purpose is how are you going to crack the code on you?
And again, welcome to another Tune In Tuesday, A16 Basics. We are on week 5, and that is the R in Allergic, okay? And so with the R, I want to give you the name, okay? So you can start to process and understand where are we going with R, okay? So R is redefining success, okay? So I want to break that down. But before we do that, I want to ask you a question, okay? So the version of success that you are currently pursuing, whatever this looks like, and I'm talking across the board, from every aspect and area of your life, whatever success would look like in that area, okay? That version of, you know, this is what I see, this is what I want, this is what I feel like is possible. My question is, that version of success, where did that come from? Like, did you decide that, or did somebody else like hand it to you and you just started running? See, because most people, they'll spend a lot of their life working incredibly hard to like this finish line, to try to achieve and get to this destination that was never actually theirs. It wasn't actually one that they chose. They, in a sense, they borrowed it. And maybe they borrowed it from their family, from the culture, around them, like school, cousins, right? The side of town they lived on. A lot of it is social media. So like, wherever we can hear the loudest opinions in our life, whoever has the most, you can kind of look back at your upbringing, whoever had the most influence in really showing and kind of demonstrating whatever that looked like when it came to being successful in your life. And then we would just naturally, along the way, we've adopted. We've kind of looked at others. We've looked, again, at the culture, social media. So the craziest part, what makes it really, really wild is, some of them reach it and immediately feel empty. Okay, that finish line, that idea of success, whatever it is, like people, they find themselves there one day, or maybe they have maybe it's in their career, like one area, but still not actually satisfied, feeling like I thought I would have been here by now, or it would have felt like this. Or maybe even financially, hey, to have this kind of money or more money, more than I've ever had coming in, I thought it would go further, right? And so the craziest part is going back to the realization that this happens for so many people. And then growing up for me, I've seen this play out in a lot of relatives, family members, just people around me. And it's frustrating to see when somebody has pursued and they've really, dedicated themselves to doing something to help them to like level up in their success game, in their life success, should I say. But why do people still feel empty at times? Or maybe they get in that relationship and they get married, and then all of a sudden, it could be months later, it could be years later. Where does that come from? What happened? Like a lot of times, and I'm not saying I have the one answer, but this is where a lot of this stems from for so many people. And so that happens a lot because, you can't borrow someone else's definition of winning and expect it to like satisfy you. Like what they said, a lot of times what they thought, maybe their upbringing, their programming convinced them that success was this, success is money, it's cars, it's possessions, it's what you wear. And so this is redefining success. Step 5, again, we're going to break down what does it look like to actually reconnect with the truth of success, okay? Because it starts right now, and it starts today, and it's every single day that we actually have successful things, beautiful things, joyous things happening, but because of our attention and where we're putting our focus, right, we're not allowed to see those demonstrations and those experiences of joy and success happening right now. So I want to refine, what does it look like to maybe look at what success is? Like, what is actually success? Okay, so I want to reframe this. I want you to see success, if I could put some type of definition to it. Like, what is success? Now, big or small, I'm not talking about these grand structures of, getting a Nobel Prize or creating, a Fortune 500 company. Like that's some crazy success, right? But success it comes back to it's doing something that only you can do and you decide to, right? It's something that, hey, only you can decide to do it and then you achieve that. Now, that something could be something as small as, throwing out the trash that day or drinking a gallon of water. And I'll get into some more of these examples, but success is you doing something that only you can decide to do and you achieve that, okay? So it's not what impresses people. It's not even what your parents wanted you to be or to do. It's not what has most people's likes or attention, but it's what you, okay, by your values and really the purpose that you've decided winning looks like. That's what success is, okay? And so, I like to always anchor these things in with, research or scripture or just other truths that really echo the truth of this point. And so Martin S., he is a, positive psychology research. He does all this crazy stuff, but he's the founder of positive psychology. And he found that real fulfillment, it requires 5 things. Okay, so maybe if you're taking notes or if you have something to take notes on, maybe your phone, jot these down. Okay, so real fulfillment comes from these 5 things. So the first one would be positive emotion. So we've talked about, what was that, last week in E, when we talk about energy, right? Emotional awareness. Like, so this is what really goes back to that point. Engagement. So that means, a lot of it, which is the third one, relationships, having some type of engagement in your life. You engage with others, right? And then having relationships to really do that. And then even engaging with your own personal life, your own personal growth, right? Your own advancements. So again, positive emotions, engagement, relationships, should I say? Okay. Meaning would be the 4th. And then achievement would be the 5th. So we need these 5 things to really feel fulfilled in our life, in whatever we're doing, any areas of that. And so achievement it's just one of those 5, right? It's the last, but most people are pouring everything that they have into the other 4, right? Or maybe they're neglecting all other 4 and they're just solely focused on this one thing, achievement. I need to achieve, okay? This is kind of called like the doer mindset, right? Like that's a really good thing to get stuff done, to like, I get it done. I'm a doer and I identify as a doer. But where this gets really kind of negative and really toxic for us sometimes is when we feel like our success comes by how we are doing and the things we are doing. And a lot of times what we are doing for others, we start trying to find some type of value for, how successful we are. So you cannot sustain a life that is built on achieving things, right, that don't really mean anything to you. It's a treadmill, right? And you just like never arrive anywhere. You're just caught in just doing. I need to do more so I can feel successful. Others can perceive that I'm successful, so I can feel successful. And so that's why so much of going back to, the basics and really, especially today for our, redefining success, why is that important? Because if we don't, again, we spend so many years and so much of our life trying to get to this destination, this finish line that wasn't ever designed for us. Okay. It just never was. And so, the default mind, it chases the crowd's version of winning. It looks at what the average does, what society says is successful, and it chases that way and that version of, okay, this is what it looks like to win. Sometimes people see that example of, hey, you got to steal, you got to cheat, you got to take if you want to be successful, if you want to have success in this life. And so that's what a default mind does. It looks at the crowd and it says, hey, that's how we're winning. Okay, let's play that way. The designed mind, okay, the allergic to average, you watching this, right, defines it for themselves. You just find this success thing, winning for yourself, okay, and then you build towards it daily in the smallest ways, or maybe the ways that others kind of excuse or call as, oh, this isn't important. Oh, Yeah, I can do that. Like, we get back to building a mindset that allows us to see what success looks like in big ways and small ways, which I'll get into in 2 points from now. Okay. So one of the big things to add to that as we kind of transition through, and when it comes to redefining success, a lot of success is what I call the do not list. Okay. The do not list. Now, this is probably one of the most controversial. Like, a lot of times people are like, well, that doesn't make sense as, as a doer, as somebody that's a hustler, as a go-getter, as an achiever, like whatever it is. You have to like do a lot. And it's true, you do. And this is why this is so important. And your do not list is more important really than your do list, right? The to-do list is not as important. And here's what I mean. So, like, nobody really ever talks about, when they talk about success, that I think really the most important thing to really consider is that success follows the do nots more than the do's. Okay, I'll say that again for you. Success follows a lot more of the do nots more than the, okay, do. It's time to do. And yeah, so everything is a no to the things that matter most. That's what you start to actually train yourself to see. When I'm saying no, when I'm putting things on like a do not list, right? It's allowing me to open up space somewhere in my psyche, in my energy, in my life, my time, for the things that actually matter most. So the reality is you can't go all in on, your purpose while you're spread across 100 distractions, even if they're good ones. And I know this well. Like, this is, again, something that I've continued to have to try to, just grow and be better at, because I have been, I'll share my story in just a bit on that, but let's continue. So Warren Buffett, he has a rule, and he talks about, like, write down 25 things you want to accomplish, circle the top 5, and those are your priorities. Everything else on the list, what does he say? He says, actively avoid those things. Now, he didn't say postpone them. He says, like, avoid, because they're not, these, even though they are things that maybe should get done or you would like to, they're actually distractions, in spite of, oh yeah, they're interesting, or I need to get that done. And they're distractions because that's just what they are at the moment. There's something that we have to be able to do, again, like Warren Buffett's rule. And I have heard about this years and years ago, about really getting laser focused on what matters. What are 3 things today that I could win at? How can I win the day? How can I succeed in, these 3 or these 5 things? Steve Jobs, he's another one. He says, focus means saying no to the 100 other things, the good ideas. And this is the man who built Apple, right? And so it was always with the no that if you like look a lot into Steve Jobs' story, that really made it possible. And so what does Scripture say about it? Nehemiah, when he's rebuilding the walls in Jerusalem, right? His enemies keep asking him to come down and meet. His answer 4 times was literally, I am doing. Hold on, let me get back to. Okay, there it was. I am doing a great work and I cannot come down. He did not say, look, I'm too busy. I know. He's literally saying, I am too focused. I'm doing a great work and I cannot come down. 4 times. He reminds them. So your do not list is it's not a sign of limitations or, you're not good at it. It's a sign of clarity, honestly. And I've had to continue to grow my perspective in that. And clarity is the most, underrated forms of success. Most people don't think that being more clear and being more understanding and aware of what you're doing and what you're attacking, that is, again, such an underrated form of success. Like, everybody just sleeps on this idea of clarity and what that does for you. And so my next point I want to bring you into, as we kind of finish up here, right? It's another part of this is how do you start to see the small wins? How do you look for the small that really do unlock the bigger achievement, success? Like, everybody is, again, fixated and obsessed with achievement, but how do we start to achieve the small that unlocks the big in our life, the bigger, should I say. So, you know, I think so much of what happens in this is people get bored. They get like unimpressed with just like what feels like the mundane, like another thing to do. Sometimes that's workouts. Sometimes that's, you know, throwing the trash. Sometimes that's reading. Maybe it's prayer time. Maybe it's having some journaling time. Maybe it's taking a walk, right? It could be you keep telling yourself you're going to make yourself that protein shake or that, you know, whatever tea because it's good for you and you should. And it's just those little things. Those are the small things I'm talking about, right? How do we find and view those small wins as success every day? So let's talk about, you know, what this looks like because, you know, I think the next part of this is where I think most people are getting it completely backwards. Okay. As I kind of bring it, the biggest wins in your life, they will never arrive. They will never show up before you have proven yourself in the smallest ones. Okay. So most people, the average, they're waiting for their moment, the big opportunity, that big breakthrough, that big position, right? The thing is that finally puts them like on the map, the thing that makes them feel like, okay, I've achieved, right? That achievement thing again. And while they're waiting, they are completely ignoring the arena of where they'll actually gain success, like where the actual game of success is played. They're missing it, waiting for the achievement. So I'm talking about the small things, like protecting your mornings, like I said, like before the noise gets to you, like, you know, moving your body, drinking the water, getting better sleep, praying, meditating, showing up fully for the people in your life, right? Like on ordinary Tuesday, like today, right? Keeping your promises, you know, to yourself. A lot of times it's small things, even when no one's watching. And so these aren't like these like concealed rare like prizes for people who have not achieved, you know, anything yet. No, these are like the daily practices of people who are building something that lasts. So that brings me to, I'm a fan of James Clear. He has a book, Atomic Habits. I would check that out if you haven't checked that one out. James Clear. But he documented this, right? Improvement, just 1% per day, it compounds over a year into 37 times overall growth. Okay, so just by, again, 1% a day, you're finding ways to get better, right? Compound that over a year, that goes into 37 times for your overall growth at year. It multiplies, all right? And so the math of the like the small consistent wins, you know, it's not the motivational like inspiring, we're going to do this, it's arithmetic. It's you're winning when you're winning the day, when you're winning in the small. And so scripture, what does scripture say? It says, you know, in Luke 16:10, whoever can be trusted with the very little can also be trusted with the much, right? That's what Luke reminds us. And so the small win is not like the warm up. It is like, that's literally the work. That's what's positioning you and making you, you know, more and more capable for handling the pressure at the next level. Because most people, they think like, oh, well, when I get to that, then I'll really like start to, you know, lock in. I'll really start to take myself serious. If you can't take yourself serious at the level you are at and playing on right now, the next win, the next transit, you will not be ready for it. And so the small wins, again, they're not the warm-ups. They're not like the cute, like, oh, I used to have small wins. Now all I have is big. No, as you continue to anchor in and lock in on the small wins, winning in the smallest, that is the work that gets you ready for the bigger, the next level. Okay, that's literally the training ground. And so in Zechariah, again, giving you some more scripture, it says, do not despite these small beginnings, for the Lord rejoices and he sees the work that he has begun, right? So you start where you are. And the average person, they wait, you know, to win in some big way before taking winning seriously. And so again, we want to get out of this, this false way of seeing and playing and showing up average. Like the designed mind, the allergic to average, just like you watching this, right? You start to look at, wins in the small things every single day, and you watch it, like the bigger things begin to flow, and like you start to see how it's compounding for you, like how it's really adding up, it's really multiplying for you. And that only happens in the progression and the progress of that. And so I got 3 minutes and I want to be done. So I'm going to give you my last point on this, all right, which is success leaves clues. Okay, this is what we need to be watching for and paying attention, growing our awareness in it, right? So success leaves clues, and so does failure. Like that's what most people don't like to hear, or I don't know, just become okay with. I don't know why, but failure, because they're always talking to you. They're always communicating something to you. And the design mind, the allergic to average, like you have to learn how to grow in your relationship of hearing and listening to that. And so what does that look like? Okay. It would be maybe your question, because that I like to equate it back to the feedback. Failure it's not final, it's feedback. These are things I've given talks on because I'm very passionate about it. But like your results, they're not accidental. So whatever you're achieving or you're not achieving, that's not accidental, okay? When you view that and you see that, where am I winning? Where do I feel like I'm losing or failing, right? That's your feedback. So when something is working, all right, cool. What produced it? What allowed that? How did that get set up in this? When something is not, okay, what needs to change? You got to read the clues. Like a lot of people like detective movies and, investigations, documentaries. Like we have to show up. That's how we crack the code in our own life for ourselves. What are these clues giving us, right? So you trust the process. You start to follow this trail. And so as you start to navigate more and more through that, that's what gets you clear. And so as you get more and more clear, you get that clarity. That's what helps you to continue to stay on that path, stay committed, dedicated to seeing, okay, I know it's not always convenient or I want to, but doing this, following these clues it's just brought me always to a destination where I've succeeded. It's allowed me to progress, right? So I'm moving on to some more research. So Carol Dweck, she's the one that writes this book, which another solid resource I would check out, Growth Mindset. Or I think it's called Mindset, but she's breaking down so much of this idea between the fixed mindset and the growth mindset. I brought this up in previous weeks, but the research is clear, okay? The people who navigated setbacks, and they would keep going, they weren't more talented people. In her research, they just believe that they believe feedback is information. It's not the verdict. So when they succeeded or when they failed, they didn't take that like personal. They took it as, okay, it's information, it's feedback, it's not final, right? It's not the verdict again. So follow the clues, like even when the clue is, oh, you failed, the failure, okay? Then the framework, it starts to, in your mind, it starts to move through with a pace, okay? Like, oh, this is what it looks like. All right, cool, that didn't work. I'm okay with that. You're not taking it, again, personal. Don't take your failure personal. Okay. I don't know. Somebody just needed to hear that. So a lot of this is just realizing too, like, hey, how do I personally measure whether I'm winning? And so I want to give you quick 4 lenses. All right. These are going to be the last 4 things on how do you start to measure, what are, even if it feels small or unimportant, how do you still measure a win? So I want to give you 4 lenses and I'm going to end right here. Okay. On, week 5, step 5, okay, redefining success. So here's another way for you to count simple ways that you're actually winning when you don't even see it. Okay, so the first one would be impact. Is my life making a positive difference in someone else's? Okay, that would be the first one, impact. Okay, second one, and this is very similar to impact, but I mean, in a different way, and even in sometimes what feels like a smaller way, win-win. Okay, that's another lens we can look from. Am I building in a way that creates value for others, not just for me? The average, it's all about a win for me personally. That's it. The allergic to average, look for what are ways that I could serve and help somebody else win. And by doing that, or in exchange, they're going to help me to level up. They're going to help me to win. That's a win-win, right? Another way of looking at, seeing, and measuring if this is a win. Anything that is putting life into life. Okay. Am I learning to, and like, okay, should I say it like this? There's a lot of ways, from like mentorship to coaching to being there for somebody, to talking to the maybe the young kid that is on your block and having a hard time, but you acknowledge him, you say what's up, you talk to him, right? Am I learning and passing it on? Am I someone's clue? Am I feedback? Am I, what is this? Am I giving life and investing life into life somehow? Okay, that would be the third lens. And the last one, which is the ultimate goal, right? But yet we sleep on this as well, but it's legacy. What am I building that will still be true after I'm gone? What's bigger than me, right? Because money's not on that list. I mean, that helps. That'll get so far. That'll help. But that's not the most important. Like, followers are not on that list. How many followers you had? Recognition is not going to be on the list. Not because those things are wrong, right? But because they're just byproducts of what real success is. All right. So, these are four. These four are like the actual game. Okay. Like I said, these four, when we look at making an impact, finding the win-wins in life, when we look at putting life and investing and expanding life into life, right? When we look at legacy, building and expanding into things that are bigger, than us, it changes everything, right? It takes an ordinary Tuesday like today, right? And it makes it something extraordinary. And so it's in the smallest ways that we actually transition and shift into something that becomes, at one point, maybe an ordinary, but as we redefine it and we give ourselves permission to, we transition, shift, and elevate it into something, even if it seems small to the world around you, something extraordinary. And that's you. And I think that's why you're here. And I appreciate that. So that does it for, step 5, R in Allergic. A16 Basics. It's me, Matt Lee. I appreciate you. I love you. I'll see you next week as we move on to step 6. And we're just going to keep this thing growing. So love you guys. I appreciate you. See you on the next one.